On today's episode of Locked On Wild, sizing up the Central, Part 2.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by Indeed. Still searching for a great candidate for your job, company? Don't search, just match with Indeed. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. On today's episode of Locked On Wild, we finish our two-part series with Isha Jahromi of the Sota Pod, sizing up the Central. We got through the first four in the Central Division based off of free agency, based off of kind of where they're at prospect-wise. We got through Dallas, Nashville, Colorado, and Winnipeg. So that means the Minnesota Wild are somewhere between 5 and 8. Will they be number 5 in Isha's rankings? Let's find out. Make sure to tune in. Don't miss out. Hit that sub button. All right, Isha, we have gotten through Dallas, Nashville, Colorado, Winnipeg, which means that the Minnesota Wild will be 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th. Are they 5th?
No. I have the St. Louis Blues at 5. Now, this one was hard. This one was tough. You can make an argument to switch them here. And I almost did, but because all you want to hate, we're going to hate a little bit here. We're going to put the Minnesota Wild at 6, and we're putting the St. Louis Blues on 5. No, I just think it's just a slight difference. It's a very slight difference. And I was telling Seth before we recorded here, either of these teams could have that 5th spot. It all depends on like who stays healthy and if their players play to their potential. Yep. And both of them could suffer. Both of them could rise to the occasion. And if they both rise to the occasion, they're going to be neck and neck all season at that spot, right? But no, I got the St. Louis Blues at 5. I give their forward group a B+, their defensive group a B, and their goaltending a C. Now, notable superstars for the St. Louis Blues in regards to skaters: Pavel Buchnevich, Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou. Now, Buchnevich, you guys might think like, maybe he just he should be a notable depth piece. I put him at superstar. I think he was absolutely tremendous last year, and I think that he's that valuable to this team, and he's one of the harder players to play against on the team. Now, let me read out their notable depth, because, my God, they have a lot of good players on their team. Braden Shen, Brandon Saad, Torrey Krug, Jake Neighbors, Justin Falk, Nick Leddy, Colton Parayko, Radek Faksa, Matthew Joseph, his brother, Pierre-Olivier Joseph, who hasn't played a lot of NHL yet, but he's going to be an absolute stud. Basically, their needs are their goaltending to stay healthy so they don't bring in a freaking carousel like they did last year. Obviously, Binnington's the name. He's Canada's best goalie right now, but
he is the epitome of hit or miss, because
that's the thing. I couldn't give them a B just banking on him to be good again.
Yeah, because it feels very much like if he's not in a good mood when he goes to the rink, that little thing. Like, I think back to that game against the Wild where he was chirping the Minnesota Wild bench after giving up 5 goals. It's like it doesn't take much to pull him off course.
Yeah,
and so
he had a decent year last year, 91 save percentage. It's just like, God, I don't know if I trust him.
Yeah,
he was above 500, 28 wins, 21 losses. He played a lot. Maybe I'm being too negative here. Maybe I should give them a C+, but like, he's the only one, and he can't carry them because he's too hit and miss.
Yep. Yeah. No, I say lean into it. Like,
and there's no one else behind him really who's like, okay, you're going to be the 1B. We can lean on you again.
Yeah. That goaltending situation is But I would say at 5, I give them, as we'll talk about here in just a little bit, I do give them the edge, especially in the forward department. Now, the Minnesota Wilds have obviously the better overall talent in Kirill, and I'll make the argument for Joel Eriksson Ek as well, and I'll throw Matt Boldy in that conversation. But it feels like St. Louis has more forward depth that gives them the edge. So let's talk about why the Minnesota Wild are at 6.
So yeah, at 6, Minnesota Wild. It was super close with the St. Louis Blues here. Forward, I'm giving them a B-. Defense, a B+. And goaltending, a B-. So like no C's, but no A's, just very, and I know you guys are going to hate this, but very freaking average. Notable superstars, Kirill Kaprizov, Brock Faber, and Joel Eriksson Ek. For the same reason as I said, like an O'Reilly for the Nashville Predators, right? He can score, he plays special teams, and he's one of the hardest guys to play against 5-on-5. Notable depth, well, their best depth piece in Matt Boldy. They're one of their best goal scorers on the team, Matt Zuccarello, Jonas Brodin, Ryan Hartman, and I'm putting Marat Kuznetsov in there as well. I know it was a small sample size, but it was a good enough sample size for me. But that's it. The rest are like, a year before, the year prior, maybe I put a couple other guys in that notable depth, but I can't, given where I put a lot of these other notable depth names on the teams above. What do the Minnesota Wild need other than just space on their roster? They need more young talent. Yep. They need more superstar top 6 players to pop. And if you look at their farm, I could go over so many great guys that they have as future options or maybe even options this year. But realistically, there's 2 spots. There's 2 spots right now. Liam Ugrin, Riley Heidt, Damon Hunt, and those are the only 3 guys who are going to be given an opportunity to play this year. 2 spots up front. If we're lucky, we see both of them play. And on the back end, there's more an opportunity for Damon Hunt than even than for any of these other guys in the farm to try to push out of development camp and out of just NHL start of the season, regular season, preseason to get that opportunity. So Ugrin, Height, I really think are the only 2 guys this year who have a chance to make the team and really could make the team. I mean, the Wild are going to, like Joe Smith said, the Wild are going to give those 2 guys every opportunity in the actual training camp and in preseason to prove them wrong, right? To be like, make your case, like show it. Like, if anything, we're going to be looking for reasons for you guys not to be here because we already think you guys should be here, sort of thing. And for Ugrin, like, he can go back to the AHL and come back later in the season, where Height, like, if he doesn't make the team, he's going back to junior. And it just sucks because he's in one of those, he's in that spot where he's too good for junior, but because of the CHL clause, he has to go back there because he's only 18 years old. And then obviously Jesper Wallstedt, if there's an injury to Fleury, if there's an injury, if there's any injuries on the goaltending side of things, injury to Gustafsson, like, he will get his opportunities this year. He'll be the guy. And if the Wild, say after 20, 30 games, aren't satisfied with what they see of Gustafsson, that trade could happen. Or they just bench Gustafsson and just straight up bring up Wallstedt. Because everyone keeps saying, and our boy Alex too, like, well, if Gustafsson plays bad, then they're just going to trade him. It's like, who's going to trade for him if he plays bad, right? If anything, the stock has to go up for teams to be like, we want him. They're not going to be like, okay, we want your failed project, right? Which again, I'm confident Gustafsson will be fine. Yes, last year was just a bad year all around, and we've seen 2 years, so this is kind of the deciding thing. We've seen 1 year where he was really good, and last year I don't even want to say he was really bad. He just wasn't as good as the year prior. Fleury played awesome last year. He met, even surpassed my expectations a little bit, and I imagine he's going to do that this year as well, which is why I gave them a B- in the goaltending. I would have given them a B+. It's just like, how good is Gustafsson going to play? And is Fleury going to have a decline this year that he didn't show last year?
Yeah, that's all of these are very valid points. And we're just kind of in this, I used the term when I recorded a crossover with Locked On Avalanche that'll drop next week. I used the term gridlock because you've got all these guys that are on the NHL roster. We have hopes that the prospects are going to start to take those spots. And so we're just in kind of this weird middle spot where it's like, well, they're not taking them right now, but if things don't go well to start the season, then we could see those guys. But until we do that kind of thing, you're at a standstill. The car's not moving. So yeah. I think 6 is the perfect spot for the Minnesota Wild because we both agree they have to have a lot go right this year, not just staying healthy, but guys exceeding performance from last year. And it feels like they're going to have a bunch of things go wrong from one of those 1 through 4, or you can even say in this case 1 through 5. Like something's going to have to go wrong for a couple of those teams for them to elevate. So,
well, that's the thing. It's like they're gonna if St. Louis stays relatively healthy and plays to their potential, and the Wild stay healthy and play to their potential. Again, like these depth players for the Wild that we all love to criticize. If they play well this year, then okay, they're gonna fight for a playoff spot. But with how good the Central is now up top, it's like, man, you're not that top of the Central anymore because there's teams that are so much better. Even if the Avs struggle a bit, they're still gonna win games because they're still gonna outscore you.
Still plenty more to get to on today's episode of Locked On Wilds as we continue to size up the Central Division. More on the way after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by Indeed. When you are in the market for a new potential employee, you need Indeed. We are driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And we do know, because like, I feel like 1 through 4 is one chunk. 5 and 6 is another kind of bubble.
Yeah.
And then you've got 7
and 8,
which I can only assume is probably the one team that actually moved geographically this past season.
Dude, I'll show you. Like, I went back and forth crossing out, as you can see in the corner there, 8, 7, 8, 7. And I say that only because the Chicago Blackhawks, they made some moves this year. They're the only team in the Central who's going to have one of their players who they just drafted play on the team. So it's like there's a question mark there. But I do have the Utah Hockey Club at number 7. Notable, actually, forward group, I actually give a B+. I really like their forward group, to be perfectly honest. And it's probably going to, I don't even say probably, it's going to get better this year. Like, we're going to see a jump from Logan Cooley this year, 100%, right? Defense, I give him a C+ on defense. Goaltending, a C, maybe even a C-. A C-. I'm giving them a C- in goaltending. Notable superstars, Dylan Guenther, man. What an absolute stud. Mikhail Sergachev, the newly acquired Mikhail Sergachev. He's a superstar. Clayton Keller and Matias Maselli. Where the hell did this guy come from? He is nasty, dude. He's going to take a step forward as well. Sean Dursey, I wanted to put in superstar. He's not quite there. He's in notable depth, but like he's damn good. He's damn good. In notable depth, I have Nick Schmaltz, Nick Bukestad, Logan Cooley, who again, next year, if we do this list, he's going to be in the notable superstar. He had a tremendous first, like a rookie year in the National Hockey League. Lawson Krause, Alex Kerfoot, and John Marino. I mean, these are some good names in the superstar category, good names in notable depth as well. But it just goes down from there. And out of all of those, Sergachev, Marino, I mean, those are those are the only. I mean, Sean Dursey as well, but like those are the only defensemen, right?
Yeah.
I love Juuso Välimäki. I watched him play in junior. He's a good bottom pairing or second pairing guy, but why he looked so good in junior, former first round Calgary Flames pick, was because he was just this massive Finnish kid who was just laying out. He just was a step ahead of everybody in junior, and then coming to the pros, it's like, okay, you fit in the pros, but you're not what you were a junior, and that is special, better, bigger than anybody else, right? He's a great piece to have, especially, I think they only have him for like $2 million. So like, I do like Juuso Välimäki, not enough to put him at like a notable depth piece, but basically Utah's needs is continue to develop your young talent, and you will be fine because they have an array of young talent. Once superstar forwards pop, they'll start building around them. They need to find a goalie, though. Perhaps that's Matthew Villalta. He's good. He's good. They might as well give him a chance this year. Maybe not to be the starter, but I mean, it's like they're not making the playoffs anyway. So give him a shot, see if he's good enough to be in the NHL. But I imagine they're going to start targeting goaltenders soon, especially if they have a better season, even if they're not sniffing playoffs, but they reach their internal goals anyways, which I know every team is going to say playoffs is goal, but let's be honest, there's some teams who will say that to make sure that everyone plays to their contract, plays to try to win the Stanley Cup, but there's realistic expectations in-house, and if they surpass even those expectations, they'll probably look for a goaltender sooner than later, whether that's Matthew Villalta or not. Their defense has two really good young guys, but it needs more, like I said. And maybe this year Välimäki does better, and they're like, okay, we can move forward with him being like a core piece, but I'm not going to bank on that because I think he's like 24, 25 now. Yeah, and it feels like a situation, especially on D, like they did do a good job of kind of putting it together on the fly, but it's either going to pop or it's not. Like, it'll either come together like lightning in a bottle, or that group is just not going to be able to figure it out. And if they don't, then we're going to see exactly what happened last year happen again. And Arizona was one of the surprises of the first half of the season, and they just went into free fall at the end of the year. So yeah, I think they will be more consistent this year. There's always a bad team that does well in the beginning of the season, right? Yes. There always is, because the good teams are still getting their stuff together, right? Getting their rebuilding their chemistry. Some of them still getting in shape. I know they're all professional athletes, but getting in NHL, not even like physical shape, but just like season shape. Like, like we're playing games 3 times a week. Like we're traveling all this much. This ain't the summer anymore, boys. You know what I mean? This isn't just skills development in training camp. This is the real deal. And it takes some time even for the elite teams. I mean, look at Tampa. Took them a little while. The Wild never got it together. But that's it's a story we'd like to forget. But I mean, they came back a little bit. But definitely not in the beginning of the year. No, not in the beginning for sure. Well, process of elimination. Yeah. Dallas, Nashville, Colorado, Winnipeg, St. Louis, Minnesota, Utah. That leaves one team remaining. The Chicago Blackhawks, who are going to be a lot more competitive this year than they were last year. And that's why I kept going back and forth. I'm like, Utah might be the one that bottoms out this year. Maybe I still think it's going to be Chicago. Maybe it's Utah. I ultimately put Chicago at the bottom because I actually like the depth of Utah more than the Blackhawks, but I like the Blackhawks top 6 now more than I like Utah's top 6. Again, assuming that, Lawson Krause, Logan Cooley, Maselli don't just take another step forward and they're like, okay, these guys are like bona fide stars in the league and stars for that team, superstars for that team. But Chicago, I give their forward a B. I give their defense a C, and I give their goaltending a freaking C as well. Notable superstars: Connor Bedard, Philip Kurashev. That's it. Yeah. And Kurashev, he's a stretch, but he had a tremendous season. I had to put him up there. Notable depth: Tyler Bertuzzi, Teravainen, Taylor Hall, if healthy, Nick Foligno, Ilya Mikheyev, who's now with the team, Seth Jones, who should be in Superstar, but it is what it is. He's still notable depth. Leshunov, who again, I put an asterisk next to him. Artem Leshunov, just because like he's coming right out of college. We don't know how good he's going to be yet. They're going to give him every opportunity to play for the Blackhawks. They're not going to send him to Rockford right away. So I'm just putting him in that notable depth with an asterisk because like they wouldn't have signed him. They wouldn't have been propping him up. They wouldn't be talking about giving him this opportunity if they weren't confident that he was going to play in the league.
For sure.
And then I also am going to put with the same argument, despite him playing a few games, I'm putting Frank Nazar in that conversation as well. I don't think he's going to be playing for Rockford. Maybe he plays a little bit for them. Like maybe he starts out well, he goes a few games without points, and they do as the NHL teams do. They're like, oh, we got nothing to lose here. Go down to Rockford, get your confidence back, come back up. But like he's going to be a notable depth piece for sure. That's it, bro. That is it. Like they need to see if their NCAA prospects pop. They need to develop more defense. They need to acquire or develop young goaltenders, and they need to keep developing young talent. So another reason why I put them at 8 and not Utah is I just have more needs for them as well.
I like that. I have no objection to any portion of that list, honestly, because again, I think we have structured this. I think you structured it in the perfect way I feel like 1 through 4 are the legitimate contenders for playoff spots.
And Winnipeg could jump Colorado. They really could. Like I said, they only need a few defensemen and maybe one young forward to pop. Mm-hmm. And again, that's easier said than done, but it's like they need realistically 3 players to play well on the team to fill in holes that they have now. And they'll be right there. Yeah.
And so I feel like those 4 are the definite contenders. St. Louis and Minnesota, definitely bubble. Definitely bubble.
Yeah, well, because St. Louis, they need more defense as well. And maybe even another notable superstar, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's interesting with St. Louis, though, because I've noted some of their forwards on the farm, like Adam Gaudette, who used to be in the Canucks system. He was an awesome college player, Hobey Baker winner at one point in his college career. Dude, he had like 78 points, I think, in the AHL last year. And he's always dominated the AHL, but just hasn't been able to be like a regular point getter in the NHL. Not a bad NHL player by any means, but like maybe he's ready at this point. Like some guys are just late bloomers and they develop once they hit 27, they're like, okay, I can play in the league for a few years. They're going to give him a chance. Ryan Suzuki's 20 years old. He's going to get a chance soon. Jacob Verana did well playing pro hockey again this year, despite some of the personal demons he went through. Zachary Bolduc, Hugh McGinn, Mikhail Abramov. Those are all good forwards for the St. Louis Blues. But Seth, as we went over the St. Louis Blues depth, like they don't need forwards right now. Maybe like if they're going to give Adam Gaudette a chance just because he was that good, and then they'll probably let some of these other guys marinate and call them up with injuries, whatever. They need defense, and Joseph Duzak, Kalen Rosen, Wyatt Kalunik, like they're just not enough. They're just not enough. And again, I will change the C grade to a C+ for them, but still, like I just don't trust their goaltending.
Yeah, it's going to require some. It's going to require some big things from a lot of those guys, much similar to the Minnesota Wild, where they need to stay healthy and they're going to need to have guys rebound after what happened last year. And both of those teams, I think, are in that category. Yeah. And then there just is a little bit of a gap, and Utah and Chicago are at the bottom. So. But
I'm kind of intrigued to see Utah and Chicago play this year because I don't think they're going to be like just a wash team like they were. Both of them are going to be wash teams like they were last year. Like they're going to be a lot more competitive because like you're telling me that you bring in Tyler Bertuzzi, Teravainen, and Mikheyev, and that doesn't like that's a line right there. That's a second line or a third line on a really good team right there.
That Chicago is going to be not pleasant to play against this year.
No, they're still going to lose a lot of games, but they're not getting the top 3 pick this year.
They're not going to get pushed around like they did last year. So,
and Utah is just going to be very interesting, very interesting
because they could have a few different things pop. They could have a few different things not. I really have no idea what to expect with the direction that they go. So
I think the biggest question mark on like who's gonna kind of dominate in that mid tier is Colorado.
Yes. Yep. If they get Nichushkin or Landeskog back, that bumps them up considerably.
Yeah, because Nichushkin, I think he can't play for until like 4 months into the season, 3 or 4 months due to his suspension. Whereas Landeskog, it's just like, how healthy is he going to be upon his return?
Yes, exactly. And their bigger issue is just the goaltending. So
yeah.
Well,
this is fun, dude. This took up my whole afternoon, but I loved it. As soon as you were like, "This is what we're doing," I'm like, I'm nerding out.
Well, and the best part too is that because of how expansive this went, this and the listeners will not be privy to this. This is going to be a 2-parter, so we get 2 episodes out of this for your Friday. So that is what we have on the Central Division for all of you wonderful listeners. So thank you for tuning into both of these episodes here today. And Isha, as always, just so much fun to end the week with, whether we take kind of a more fun approach to the off season or when we do these bigger deep dives, which I think we will definitely do some more of these going forward. Listeners, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to leave a nice review on your favorite audio platforms as well. And we've got a fun announcement coming up for you here in the next couple of weeks also. So stay tuned there as we just continue to push it forward here at Locked On Wild. You can find new episodes every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.